Welcome to the Steady On Stronger Together podcast. I am your host, Angie Bauman. In early 2020, I taught a study on the first 11 chapters in the book of Genesis. The book opens with the story of creation, and I found new things as I read and studied the verses that describe how God brought into being all that we experience in the world around us. One of my main takeaways was realizing how much I had been missing the gift of creation that God offers us. I've never been much of an outside girl, and nature was something I didn't spend much time thinking about. Enter my friend Scarlett, who introduced me to the work of Laurie Kehler. Laurie's beautiful writing helps her readers connect to the heart of God through nature, and I learned so much from reading her most recent book, This Outside Life. I was delighted when Laurie agreed to sit down with me for a chat, and of course, I invited my friend Scarlett to join us. We had a great time with Laurie, and I believe you will love her too. Let's listen in. Hello, Steady On friends, and welcome. It's virtual book club night. Yay! And I'm Angie Bauman, and I am here with my good friend Scarlett Pearson and also Laurie Kehler. It is Kehler, right?
It is.
Right?
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And we are discussing Laurie's book tonight, This Outside Life, which I have adored. And I was just showing before, I've got all these little Post-it notes in here because I took a lot of notes and a lot of things really resonated with me. And before I even introduce you, Laurie, I just want to say it's Scarlett's doing that. I have really enjoyed your work, and I have enjoyed your devotions on through the YouVersion. And earlier this year, when was it? It was around the time that the shutdown started and all that stuff. I was teaching in the book of Genesis, and I was teaching creation, and the Lord really just got a hold of me and started kind of messing with me about the fact that I did not really have a good relationship with his gift of creation. I don't know how to explain it other than that. And I began to share that with some of my friends, just like the Lord's really poking on my heart about this. And anyway, and so Scarlett first sent me, she's like, hey, listen to these, you might like them, with what you're dealing. And I did like them so much. And then she recommended this book. And so anyway, I appreciate learning from you. I have, and it's really opened my heart to something different. Scarlett's already an outdoorsy person, but I'm a tougher sell. But we're so delighted to have you tonight, Laurie Kehler. We were just talking, she grew up in Wisconsin, lived for a while in Australia, now lives in the San Francisco area, went to college on a swimming scholarship, which impresses me. And you'll have to tell me, because you're a certified PADI rescue level diver. What does that mean? Can you tell us?
Well, PADI is just a group or an organization, and there's two main big ones. It's PADI and another one, and they certify, they take you through your courses and you get certified.
Okay. So an organization that so the parts in your book, and we'll get to this, I know, but the parts in your book when you talked about scuba diving, like I could almost feel claustrophobic. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know people do that, but it's just so different than like the way I live my life or something.
Which
I'm like, I can't believe.
It's so funny to me that maybe because I was a swimmer, but like I am totally claustrophobic. I mean, I just interviewed somebody from my podcast who was just cave diving. So like scrunching through these tiny little, and I just started getting sweaty palms listening to him. I'm like, no. So yeah, it kind of makes me laugh that I actually enjoyed scuba diving.
That's interesting. That's right. And you former career in advertising, which we're going to talk about just a little bit. And now you're an author and a speaker, and your podcast is The Nature of Hope, right?
Well, I have two podcasts.
Okay. What's the other one?
One is a Christian one, The Nature of Hope.
Okay.
And that's where I talk about, biblical lessons from nature.
Yeah.
And the other one is just a total secular one, because I wanted to get people to connect more with, some people do live their lives sort of outside a lot. And so I interview beekeepers and commercial fishermen and people that grow lavender and sell essential oils. And it was just fascinating to me to get their perspective on what it's like to be outside all the time and the lessons they've learned. And I interview CEO Scott Cook of Intuit, Quicken Software, and he talks about why he takes the time off to do this extensive backpacking trip and the lessons he learns from that. And it's fun.
I think, what's that one called?
That one's the same as my book title, This Outside Life.
Okay. Yeah. So This Outside Life and the Nature of Hope. I love that idea because like I said, it's been something in my life that I just haven't learned enough about. And I'm fascinated by people who, what I'm learning to appreciate is that I can learn from people, even if that's not what I'm interested in, you know? And I think that's one of the things about your book, that I was so moved by the way that you have experienced God, you know, through some of the things that you've done. So anyway, I love that. So the nature of hope and this outside life, and also your artwork is gorgeous. Is it all watercolors that you do?
It is right now. Yeah, I've been playing with oils, but I'm mainly into watercolor.
Yeah, well, it is beautiful. And if you're interested, at Laurie Kehler is how you follow on Instagram also. So, and she has a new store where she's selling things, but not quite yet. We were
well, actually, when do you post this? Is this going to be posted in like 2 weeks or something?
Well, for right now, it's live right now, but yeah, it'll be like, probably 2 weeks or so before like it goes. Yeah. So by then all the kinks will be worked out in your store. Well,
and anyway, I have a little message on those one products that aren't working, but yeah, they could go to it's thenatureofhopeshop.com.
thenatureofhopeshop.com. I'm writing all this down. So what else do you, go ahead, Scarlett. Yes.
Let me ask a question. Okay. So I've been following you and I see that you've been doing this every day. Is this like a challenge that you're doing? And how did you get cooked up?
Yeah. And you know, so I was telling you about how bad this day has been. I still haven't posted a painting. So
the day's not over.
the day's not over. I have till midnight. Yeah, I just started doing this painting and I thought, if I don't set a goal for myself, if I don't like make myself tell everybody, hey, I'm going to do this for 365 days. I post every day, but I don't post Sundays. So I give myself a break. And yeah, it's this commitment to myself. It's, you know, after I have quiet time, I paint, or sometimes I paint and then, you know, I forget, but I just make sure I get that done. And sometimes it feels like, oh, I've got to get this done. But most of the time it's this wonderful moment of settling down, quieting, listening to a lovely audiobook or a podcast, or just painting. And it really sort of quiets the mind and all that craziness that goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is awesome. So Lisa is watching. She says she's claustrophobic too. No cave diving for me. And she also says she's a certified, is it PADI? Is that what you said about this? She's a certified PADI scuba diver as well, she's saying. So she's friends with you on that, at least. So, so anything else you want us to know about yourself, your ministry, your family?
No, I went through 7 years of infertility, and now I have a senior in high school who might be above me, thumping on the floor.
We keep it real here. That's okay. Yeah.
And the dog might bark.
So. Right. I know. I put a note on my door. Mom is teaching online, but sometimes they come in anyway. It doesn't matter. So, I appreciated your talk about the infertility journey. And one of the things that I really appreciated about your book was like the tone of the book was to me very real. Like I think there was some things that you admitted about yourself and your struggles that I think were hard to admit about some of the things that you see as like self-serving or prideful, things that we all deal with. But I think a lot of times when we write or speak, we try to clean it up more than that. Pretty. I do. I think we do. I just, that wasn't a question that I posed ahead of time, but why is that the way that you do that? Can I ask?
You know, yeah, absolutely. I get so frustrated when I read somebody's account of their hard time and they're like, but you know, I just knew that God was going to work it all out. And so I just had peace in my heart. I'm like, well, I wish I was that kind of Christian, but I'm not. I'm the type that pounds on his chest a little bit more, cries, screams. And, you know, it took me 7 years to get pregnant through that infertility journey. And when I look back, I am not proud of, I was in a rage at times. I was so mad at God. And I'd watch these women on crack throw away their babies. I'm like, I wouldn't run the world this way. And it just, I guess I'm the type that needs the long, circuitous route to learn things. But yeah, I wanted to be real so that people could realize it's okay to be yourself in front of God. You know, it is okay. And there's no one way to be a real Christian. I mean, my goodness, look at David. You know? So I just wanted to give people hope that, you know, you can get there by the ugly route. And that's what I did.
I just appreciate that because I think it gives you, it creates a safe space to wrestle, you know, sometimes when you realize that you're not in that alone. And I think probably we all have things that we've really wrestled or questioned, but sometimes in the church, at least my experience has been, and I'm a pastor in the church, so I can say like I've been in church a long time. Sometimes in the church, we're just like, well, it's not cool to wrestle or question, right? So don't bring that here. And I think it's so important to be able to do that. So I thank you for that tone of that and that self-reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, like, the very beginning, when the way you spoke about your real life, it gave me, like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this woman. Real. So I really appreciate it, because it made me really realize, oh, she's got something to say, and I want to hear what she has to say.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, thank you. Because it's funny. I showed it to a family member and they were like, well, it's a bit oversharing, or, it's a bit too personal. And I thought, I've laid myself out there for the world. What have I done? But then I realized, you know what? Some people just they keep it more together and hidden, and some of us share. So.
And I think there's such a beautiful balance in the sharing, but in also I think that your sharing and your personal keeps pointing us to Jesus, which is what we're supposed to do, right? Like, I think we're supposed to, right, with our. I remember I've shared this story before, but I have abuse in my background, and one of the first times I didn't talk about it at all for probably like 25 years, and when the Lord began to work on my heart and began to kind of peel that back and say, this is something that I want to offer some deeper healing, and invited me to speak about it, and I had some opportunities to do so. I remember the first time I was going to speak about that publicly, I kind of was saying this prayer even before I was going to do it. And I was like trying to figure out how I could rewrite it real fast and take it out, and all this stuff. And I kept saying to him, they don't need my sad story. They don't need my sad story. And I really felt him impress upon my heart. No, they don't need your sad story. They need your redemptive story. And it changed everything for me as I shared about myself, because like you're saying, like, I think we can encourage each other with our stories, and the responsibility then is due. And I feel like you just did this beautifully, is to continue to point us back to Jesus through them. So yeah, I loved it. So
thanks.
Well, let's talk about this. What would you say is kind of the heart of the book, or the message of the book, and kind of why tackle this project?
I know I'm supposed to give you the elevator pitch, the like one line that just encompasses.
Nope, and, you be you. We like you.
Well, and my background's advertising and marketing, so I was like, okay, I should nail this. But so the short answer is, I just want people to fall in love with nature and see the heart of God in what He's made. But the longer answer is, there are 3 reasons. He said in Romans 1 that His creation is the first revelation of Himself. It shows His character. It shows His design sense. It shows a reflection of what He delights in. I mean, we were talking about scuba diving. I've been 80 feet underwater and seeing these sea slugs that are very small, but they're neon pink and purple. They're lime green and magenta. They're these crazy, crazy wild colors. Now, the majority of the world will never see that. Yeah. But He put that detail and extravagance deep under the ocean. And why did He do it? Because it delights Him. I want people to see that's the kind of God we have, who puts this intricate design and amazing details into things that we may or may not see in the top of the Alps or deep under the ocean. And His invisible qualities, His eternal power, in volcanoes and waterfalls and parting the Red Sea, His divine nature has been clearly seen and understood from what He has made. And I think the more we experience the outdoors, the more we get in touch with that divine nature and who He is. And then I wanted people to see the tenderness of creation. When you see all the myriad different flowers, and not every bird song is the same, and not every bird looks the same, what kind of God does this? I wanted people to just fall in love with this creative heart of His that creates this infinite storm of beauty around us. And also, I want people to understand that, nature isn't just a nice to do if you have time. It is imperative to our well-being. They're discovering with COVID that if you have low vitamin D, you have a much harder time overcoming this. And where do we get vitamin D? By getting outside in the sun. And just for our well-being, I talk in the book, I shouldn't promote somebody else's book, but I'm going to do it because I'm me. This woman wrote this book, The Nature Fix. And
you've read that one?
I've heard of that book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And she talks about, she goes into all the science and how they studied in Japan and Korea about the measurable benefits of being outside in nature. And it lowers your blood pressure. It boosts your immune system. It does all these things that, to the same degree that an SSRI pill can do for people. And so for our well-being, it's really important to get out there and experience this. I could go on, but here's where
No,
I'll
I
stop.
love, when you said that, it jogged my memory about one of the things I liked in your book was several times you gave really practical things, like somebody like me that, I mean, I remember the butterfly one, that wasn't the only one, like bluebirds, I think in that chapter, right? You were like, if you want to do more of this in your life, like you gave some really practical things. And I really appreciated that too, because I am one of the people that you're writing to that's like, not paying attention to this. Like I feel now that he's really calling me. It's like a gift of grace that I've kind of just not received. And there is so much beauty in it. And I love what you say about the slugs and the different colors. Like, why does he do that? Why would he do that? One of the things I love about nature is rain. I love rainy days and I love rain. Yeah. And I think about that, like with the difference, like the different bird songs and stuff. Like, I think one of the reasons that, I mean, it's just rain and yet it always feels so different. Like it doesn't look the same ever. I don't know. There's something about it that's just, I think it's because I can't create it. I try too hard to hold on to control, right? And rain reminds me somehow that actually you can do nothing, right? Because everything depends on this and you can't make it happen. And I don't know, it humbles me or something. Yeah, it's beautiful. So one of your stated goals, I think I saw this maybe on your website or something, is to get people out of their nature blindness. And so what keeps us from noticing God in the world around us, you think? And how do we begin to shift our focus with that? What's your advice for us?
Well, nature blindness is when you're totally blind to what's going on around you. Like, and I've noticed this more and more with people because our survival is no longer dependent on, can we determine what's happening in the weather? Do we know how to grow crops? We're indoors all the time now. We don't need to be that in tune with nature to survive. And so when we do step outside, I have a podcast, you have a podcast. We love our music. We love our audiobooks, and we're usually listening to something else. So we're not even listening to nature. And so today, if you ask somebody, oh, what kind of trees are those? You point to a group of trees, they'll be like, they're green. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't know, is that an evergreen? Is it deciduous? Now, if it's an evergreen, are those redwoods? Are those spruces? Are those hemlocks? Are those, people don't know these things anymore. Mm-hmm. And that used to be common knowledge with our great grandparents. They knew all of that. Mm-hmm. And so, or if you say people, what kind of birds frequent your area? I don't know. I mean, that's nature blindness. Okay. So how do we, change that? It's very simple, and start with the senses. Stop and listen. Like, is there usually a bird at 6:30 in the morning? And is it always the same song, or is it different? Or, what bird usually is the first one to show up in the spring after the snow melts? Do you know for your area? I mean, I know for up in Madison, for us, it was a robin. And that was the returning birds. I mean, the cardinals and the chickadees were there all winter long. But some birds go away. Who comes back? What are the first flowers to emerge in the spring in your area? Is it a crocus? Is it a daffodil? Is it blossoms on a tree? Just use your senses. Like, what does it smell like after rain? In the summer when the rain hits that hot pavement, that smell of summer rain. Mm-hmm. And here, when the rain hits the eucalyptus trees, it's like you've got this menthol thing going in the air around here. So the sensory aspect is a great way to just overcome nature blindness by stopping and looking at what's going on, listening. Birds can make a twittering happy sound, or they can make this alarming kind of sound. And when they do that, oh, well, there must be a cat around, or something is threatening them, or there's a hawk near their nest. So paying attention to the sounds, the sights, the smells really helps you move out of your nature blindness. And I think a great way to do this is to keep if you're a gardener, most gardeners really benefit from just a blank journal that says, oh, May 1st, it snowed again. And now after several years, you're going to see, okay, maybe you should wait to mid-May to plant your flowers or something. So starting a journal about what you noticed and put a pressed flower in there really helps.
I'm taking notes. I love that, like journal, like I am such a believer of like a gratitude journal, to focus us on the things that we can really praise God for, the specific things in our life, but to do that, like really just to focus on the nature things around you, because I'm confident there's a man, we have a lake. I live in a university town, and we have a lake around our campus, and there's a man that sells beautiful photography. He walks that lake every day, all different seasons. And he has like your drawings, he has so many like campus pictures just from that, like 2 miles, Scarlett, does that sound about right? Like, that he does every day. And there's so many different things. He doesn't take the same picture twice. And that's just something like that is just a beautiful way, I think, to begin to say, this is in my world, or it's in my backyard practically. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a freebie. If people, I have this, do I have it right here? I usually do. It's the Senses course. It's 38 pages. Oh, I do have it here. You could just download this off the front page of my website, lauriekehler.com. And it's a sense of his presence, a 5-day guide to discovering him through your senses. So it walks you through this. You can print it out, and it says, it talks, what do you smell? What are you looking at? Do you have favorite herbs that you use in cooking? What times have you noticed an aroma outside? Just sort of walks you through the senses and helps you learn to be more aware of what's going on.
I think that's
cool.
great.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. One of my favorite, you said aroma, one of my favorite chapters was on aroma. And then I want Scarlett to one of her favorite chapters, but I loved I have this thing in the up of my closet, in the top of my closet, that I pull down every once in a while. And I just call it, I don't even know what I call it, but it's like bottles of like a bottle of perfume I was wearing when I met my husband, like the smell I was wearing when we started dating. And I have some baby lotion from when my first son was born. There was a little left. And I have like the shower gel on my honeymoon. And so like every once in a while I get him down. I know Scarlett's laughing at me. I don't, but that
is so awesome, because instead of a photo album, it's this aroma album.
But when I smell it, it takes me right back there. And so when
Absolutely.
you were talking about aroma, I'm like, oh, I think she would like my little stash at the top of my linen closet, because that's what, it's not naturey, but it's just they're so linked to memory. And I thought it was so beautiful what you were talking about, how aroma has a direct route to like memory and emotion. And I just wonder, like, how for you has experiencing God in nature kind of affected your aroma, if you will, because I think what you were saying is kind of what we absorb by him is also what we reflect, to others, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all give off an aroma. Even if you've showered and you put on deodorant and perfume, we give off a different kind of aroma. And to some, it's this beguiling fragrance of Christ, and to others, and his mercy, and to others, it can be really repugnant. And, it depends if you come off real judgmental and telling people how to live versus are you serving and loving. And I think being in nature, observing his creativity, it helps you see his tender heart and makes you more of a tender-hearted person. We all have a choice. We can sit there and doom scroll what's going on in the news lately and be like, oh my goodness, we're going to hell in a handbasket here. Or we can get outside, listen to the birds, think about, he takes care of the sparrows. He's going to take care of me. He's still on the throne, and P.S. Nobody here on earth is my Messiah or is going to save everything. Only he is. And and I'm watching that, the seasons change, birds migrate, things. I think the biggest lie of Satan is the way things are right now, this horrible, tough time you're going through, it's going to be like that forever. And you feel trapped. And when you're a nature observer, you realize, no, things are cyclical. The sun, we move, and rains come after drought. And it gives you a different perspective and helps you give off that aroma of a more tender-hearted person, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think also, like, with the cyclical, I love the seasons, like, as much as, like, I'm a summer girl, but I love living in a part of the country where we do have, if you don't winter, even though sometimes it's not hard here like it is other places, but like it's not going to last, like there's this understanding that spring is coming. And I like being able to see that in both in the nature around me, but just, it reminds me of the truth of what you're saying. Like, even if you're going through a difficult cold season, if you will, spring is coming. Like it really is. And we can hold on to that hope, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been through that in marriage. There've been, months or years where I think, really? Is this the way it's going to be?
Yeah.
And then, now I'm like, oh, it's great. It's all good, So things change.
Absolutely. In relationships, in parenting, in marriage. Yeah, I think that's so true. In ministry, and that's true for me, where there are days that I'm just like, what am I doing? And the other days you're like, seriously, you're like, I think today I might be quitting. But then other days you're like, so thank you so much and it just, he just grows us. I think he can grow us through those maybe colder places when we allow. So Scarlett, what did you have a favorite that you wanted to throw in, a section or chapter that you just really resonated with?
There were several. The first time I wrote down my chapters that I really liked was the one about the wind and you guys doing the falconing.
Oh yes, that was
really
a fun,
cool.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then this last time I read through it, I really the chapter about ticks stuck out to me, because that guy that was in I can't remember who he was or how he was related to you or whatever, but the guy that was in the hospital bed that was so bitter at the end of his life, that scared the bejesus out of me, because I'm like, I need to make sure that I'm getting the bitterness out now. Like, I need to make sure that I'm not holding that down, faking it till I make it. Because it just made me think about how often we just try to put up this front of, I'm a good Christian person, I'm doing all the right things, but then inside there's stuff going on and you're not dealing with it. And it just, I think that chapter will stick with me the most, just because you don't want to be that person at the end of your life.
Yeah, I try to let go of things real quick, because I've seen what it does when it festers and it turns people into these angry, bitter people. And, when you're lying in the hospital bed under the medication, you're not always in control of what you say. And so from the heart, the mouth speaks. It's not always pretty.
I know. Yes. I think that's so true. I liked the chipmunk one too. When you talked about hoarding things, but I really liked, I think I was probably expecting a book that was like, here, get outside more. And this is why. And I wasn't expecting to be challenged as deeply as what your book challenged me. And I say that with respect, because it really did. It really brought out some things that made me really think, and it was so good. Yeah.
Well, it's so humbling for me, because I reread some of those chapters and I think, oh yeah, I need to relearn that.
I always say that when I write a Bible study or when I'm preaching or something. I'm like, heavens, I'm preaching at me the most.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I think that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Like I think what the work that he's doing in us, then as much as possible, we can share that in hopes that it encourages someone else, Yeah. So, talk to us a little bit about how God, this wasn't in this book, but I read it on a blog post, I think, from your website, about how God has connected your embracing and appreciate nature's flaws to influence the way that you see yourself and what you consider your own flaws, especially your physical flaws. You write and speak openly about that. Will you talk to us a little bit about that connection?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked this, because nobody has. And I think, especially women in this country, we have such a struggle with self-hatred. I mean,
Yes.
We are like, oh, my muffin top's disgusting, and oh, my flabby upper arms, and oh, whatever, the list is endless. And, I thought, when we go out in nature, we don't want it to look like every tree is exact and it looks like it's just been made on a computer, and they're all the same size, and they're all the same color, and they're all this, same height, and they're all, we don't want that. That would not be pleasurable at all. We don't want all the birds to be gray and sing the same song. We want variety. And we have never been in nature and said, that tree is just too tall, or that tree is just too fat, or that tree is just too whatever. We never say that. In fact, my nephew's a woodworker, and he prizes these trees that have these big, gnarly, like warts and lumps on them. They're called galls or burls. And woodworkers know that those ugly little lumps and warts, you cut those off and you make the most beautiful bowls out of them. They have this beautiful, it's not like a straight wood grain. It's this swirly, marbly thing. And, we know that this makes the most beautiful bowls. And so we celebrate these things that are different in nature, the possibly long legs of the flamingo, the outrageous colors. And yet when it comes to ourselves, it's like, oh no, I need to look like Jennifer Lopez or Lady Gaga or Christy Brinkley or whatever crazy, person we have on our mind. And,
on our perfect idea, right?
Yeah. And, I used to, I would be so angry because my feet are huge. They're size 12. And, when you're growing up and...
Are your feet? She says, me too. You have 12 feet?
Yeah. And all growing up, you grow up in Wisconsin, you want to go skating with your friends. And I would go into a store and be like, okay, what's the biggest skate you're on? Oh, don't worry, honey, we have your size. I'm like, no, really? What? And they're whatever your size you have, we have, okay, I'm at 12. Oh, we don't have anything that big. And of course I would dissolve into tears and be like, I'm ugly. And in fact, I love my mother to death, But she did say to me once when I was trying on clothes, she goes, you know, honey, the canary wears yellow, the elephant wears gray.
Oh.
Because she didn't want me to wear this brightly colored thing over, you know.
Oh.
So, I mean, even now I'm 6 feet tall. I vary between size 10 and 12. And I could think, oh, you know, I'm just too fat. No, I'm not. I'm normal. I'm fine. But we, you know, do it. So
Yes.
here's the secret. Here's the secret to getting over this. Just as we appreciate all the differences in nature, the way to appreciate your body is to start thanking it for what it's done for you. Have you been pregnant with a child? Have you been able to do that? That's incredible. Not everybody can. Have, you know, maybe your upper arms are more flabby than you want, but who have you hugged? Who have you hugged with your arms? Do you think when you were hugging them that they thought, oh, wait a minute, just how big are those arms? Or did they want to feel loved and embraced? You know, what have you looked at? What sunsets have you enjoyed with your eyes? Not everybody can see. You know, what have you heard? Have you heard a child or a loved one say, I love you? Not everybody can hear. So start thanking your body for what it's done for you. You know, I could thank my body for like, wow, I hiked up in the Sierras and wow, I've been scuba diving, but it's the little things. I held my son in my arms. I mean, when I started doing this with my body, just thanking all the parts, and P.S., I'm glad my feet are big because I, you know, became an NCAA All-American swimmer and because I had my own flippers. So it's okay. Yeah.
You make it work for you.
Yeah, make it work for you. So I think when we start thanking our bodies for how they've performed for us, you get a whole different view on that. And you also start treating yourself better. Like, oh, well, this machine, I want it to work well. So I'm going to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm going to move. I'm going to walk for 20 minutes today. I'm going to, you know, you get a different perspective when you start thanking your body for that. And I think that's a gratitude offering to your Heavenly Father, because you're telling him, I hate what you gave me. So let's turn that around.
Yes. I thought it was very, again, kind of like being willing to say this about yourself, but one of the pictures, you have a picture of you where you had hiked somewhere and you talk about how when I got this picture, I didn't think about when I got it back, I didn't think about what I just done. I was looking at my thighs and and like how fat they were. And I can so relate to that, where you're like, wait a second, you are missing, you're like saying no to the gift of joy about, you know, the holding or the hearing or the seeing the sunset because you're obsessed with or distracted by maybe, you know, the size of your feet or your thighs or whatever. Yeah. And I mean, the really appreciate that.
The cruelest thing was when that term thigh gap came into our vocabulary. It's like, oh, wait, what? I wasn't even aware of this. I'm supposed to have a thigh gap? I'm failing. And then I thought, I didn't have a thigh gap in junior high. It's just not the way my thighs are made. And I'm just not going to pay any attention to that.
Yeah, but it's very hard not to somehow. Like I don't think, here's the thing. I don't look at any of my friends, my dear friends, and think, oh my goodness, you're too tall or your feet are too big or what, you know, like I don't do that to anybody that I care about like that, but I do it to myself. And and I think we do just really miss the peace, I think, that comes from knowing that we are created intentionally. Right.
Just think of yourself as one of the beautiful flowers or trees in his creation, and you are meant to be the way you are, and you have things to offer.
So I'm watching our time just a little bit. So how has your advertising career, because how long did you work in advertising and marketing?
About 8 years.
Okay. Yeah. So how did those years, because one of the things in the book you were talking about how like in advertising, you're supposed to like push on, if you just have this, you'll be happy, you know, kind of thing. You probably say it better than I do, but like, we're supposed to tell you why you're not happy and then tell you that our thing will make you happy, you know? And so like, how has that like influenced your ability to recognize and receive God's gift of nature?
Well, yeah, the saying was, we convince people to buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't know. How crazy is that? But what advertising did
so true.
Me,
yes,
it is so
it's
true.
So true.
It's crazy. It's enough, and you know, the world just jerks on that chain, and we
have to have this because then I'll like my thighs.
Yeah. But what advertising gave me is it gave me a language, and it made me see I can find a benefit in anything, you know, so no matter what the product is, no matter what the person is or what the circumstance, I can find a benefit in anything, or a metaphor or an allegory for it. So it helped me communicate those truths. So when I, switched from advertising into writing books, I was able to look at nature and be like, okay, what's the benefit here? What's the metaphor here? What's the lesson here? I was able to pull that over real quickly. And, with the writing, then I moved into art, and that was just delighting. It wasn't so much communicating with words, but just expressing the delight in his beauty. When I paint a chickadee or these little warblers or, flowers, it's just all about communicating the delight. So, which is why I opened the store. But what I hope to do with my next book is combine the writing and the art, and then,
Are you I like to ask this. Are you working on something right now that you can talk about? Is there another project in the works?
I just have them kind of simmering on the back burners, so bubbling up my head, like, and actually if people sign up for my email list on my website, then they'll see a survey, and I have like, are you interested in this kind of a book or this kind of book or what? So yeah, it's always interesting to see what most people are interested in. So far, most of it is sensing God with their senses outside. Most people are sort of interested in that.
Yeah. What else, Scarlett? I know you had probably something else.
Like two things I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
So I would like to know what you do in your personal quiet time. Like, is there a devotion? Is there books? Is there somebody that you like kind of feel inspired by, that you kind of run to, that kind of inspires you?
It's interesting because I was talking with my husband about this, because I see some devotionals that are very surfacey and sort of like, isn't God great in 300 words? And I get so frustrated by that. And
so does Scarlett.
Yeah, it's just like,
you might not say that, but I will.
And so I've got several things. I love to go through. Sometimes, there's always Oswald Chambers. There's a C.S. Lewis. I like those. But sometimes I'll say one thing. I'll tell you what my anchor is. When everything is falling apart, and yeah, I know all the verses. I can rattle off a ton of memorized verses. But I grab books by Elizabeth Elliot, the wife of Jim Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
She has a way of taking these rock hard truths and your rock hard experience and bringing them together. And it just is like, oh, that's right. That's who my God is. That's right. That's what the promise is. And I love that for when I'm in the middle of a whirlwind. But I do like I just finished Michelle Couchette's book about her episodes of throat cancer. That was really good. You should have her on her show. She's a great speaker. So I go through different books, I'm a creative type. I'm not one of these linear accountant types that like, well, I finished this and now I'm going to go here. I love the YouVersion Bible studies. Those are wonderful. And, Francis Chan, he's got some videos on there. And my husband and I both been really enjoying Piper's things that he has. So I'm pretty eclectic. I pick and choose different things. Mm-hmm. But sometimes,
good.
It's funny. I have been doing this one thing that anybody can do. I've just taken the book of Ephesians and opened a journal and rewrote it in my own words. And I had this counselor tell me to try this in Australia, this older woman. And she was such a wise, lovely person. And I hadn't done it for a while. And God said, you need to keep doing this. And so I started writing, and that verse was like, for the day, it was incredible. And okay, then nailed me. Yes, yeah. I totally get this.
Yeah.
So I just love that about his word. There's always something to discover. It's like this deep well, and you will never get to the bottom of it. And there's always jewels to uncover along the way. And it's just so gracious of him, the way he speaks to us through his word.
I had the opportunity recently to speak on a panel about handling the scriptures with care when we're writing. And I said that one of the things I've been studying and teaching the Bible for only over 20 years. And the only thing I know is it's a really big book and I don't know very much. I just, because every time I think you might I don't know, you kid yourself. I do anyway. Sometimes I'm like, I think I'm getting a handle on this. And then like what you're saying with Ephesians, one verse will be like, I know nothing about you. I'm standing here with only ankle deep, maybe. Right. Yeah. So I think it's so beautiful the way he does that for us. So Scarlett, you had two things though. That was one, right?
Oh yeah. Have you done any work on the Enneagram?
I haven't. I'm so divided about that. Part of me is like, I don't like this, and I prefer the Well, yeah, I wonder about the spiritual roots of it and blah, blah, blah. But yes, I have done it. And I never like what I am. I always come out as an 8. And that to me seems like a nasty sort of aggressive person. I'm like, no, I'm a 7. I'm a 4. And so I keep retaking it to get a different score. And I'm like, oh.
I knew you were an 8 whenever I started reading you, because I'm an 8 girl and I knew you were an 8. And I was like,
she texted me like, I don't know. I was probably in chapter 4. She's like, I think Laurie's an 8.
I just love the way you present yourself. You're rock solid. Like, I'll read
Scarlett, you're my new best friend. Just want to say.
I'm gonna leave the meeting.
Yeah. I felt like you're so honest. You're so straightforward. You say it like it is, and that's just impressive to me, because the sad thing is in our world there's just not a lot of people just telling you what it is, you know? And
for somebody that's not an 8, because 8s usually scare me, but you say it like it is, but I can still pick it up, you know, like and so I like that too, because it's like because it's just rich with his truth and his grace all through it. So
I have found in my 8ness, because I do come on so strong and honest and scare most people, because they're like, you're a lot and I need you to calm down. Something about nature though is like my soft, vulnerable side. Like when I go outside, it's not about me anymore. I can stop and, like you said, like sense everything around me and just know, like, if everything inside me is going crazy or I can't control what I want to control, I can walk outside and just be like, you know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Because the Lord, like you said, he's still letting everything go through its cycles. Everything's still getting fed. I don't know. It's just nature is really important to me because of that. I think it just brings me back to my center, and that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So.
And it's humbling. I mean, when you watch a big storm or you watch a Pacific Ocean, you're like, okay, I think you got this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, I really appreciate your book.
Oh, this is the most fun interview I've ever done.
Oh, well, good.
Yay. Well, tell your friends. No,
Absolutely.
I actually wanted to ask you about, maybe we should do this one, because I saw your comment on Kathy Lipp's page, and I'm on that page too. So I wanted to ask you about that, but maybe we can do that when we're done. We're out of time. This is what I do know. Unfortunately, this has flown by, but we cannot say strongly enough how much we recommend this outside life and other things. Laurie has some devotions on YouVersion that you can listen to or read. I thought the audio was excellent, and Laurie reads it herself, and it's really good. And her artwork is beautiful. And so do go and check out. I think you have really generous freebies on your webpage. Just really neat, different stuff.
Well, I have another one. If they go to the store, they can get a discount code.
Okay.
And so that code is Psalm 104.
Psalm 104.
So all caps, PSALM 104.
Excellent. Yeah, gorgeous stuff. So I think you're just very refreshing, because a lot of us, I just really appreciate your uniqueness. When you go to your webpage, and the message that you have is different than other things that I'm listening to right now, and I just really like it. So,
Angie, you're just so wonderful to talk to. Thank you so much.
It's been a delight to talk with you, and we are going to sign off until next time. Peace.
Bye. Thank you.
This is one of those interviews that has been life-changing for me. God has really gotten a hold of my heart about connecting with him through creation, and Laurie has been a tremendous teacher and guide as I've taken steps on that path. You can learn more from Laurie on her website, lauriekehler.com, which is linked in today's show notes. Her 2 podcasts are This Outside Life and The Nature of Hope. Her watercolor drawings can be found on Instagram at Laurie Kehler, and Laurie's products can be purchased through the shop on her website. My Steady On friends can use the code Psalm104, all caps, for a discount on those items. Thank you so much for listening. I pray that wherever your day takes you, you are walking in the confident knowledge that you are a beloved, cherished child of God. Peace.